Queer News Tonight interviews Howard from FabScout Entertainment. Tonight in our studio is the favorite person of the gay community, Howard Andrew. Howard is the founder and owner of a popular gay adult entertainment company, FabScout Entertainment. He represents some of the world's most famous gay adult entertainers and products and operates a recording studio. Howard talked to us about his entrepreneurial journey and his love for the community. He is one of the favorite and loved gay entrepreneurs of Fort Lauderdale. Howard was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award at the GayVN Awards in January of 2022. The GayVN Awards are film awards presented annually to honor work done in the gay pornographic industry. He is also a Grabby Wall of Fame winner. Here is what Howard shared with us.
Tonight, the big interview is dedicated to a favorite person of the gay community across the country, Howard Andrew. At Happening Out Television Network, we are dedicated to exploring our LGBTQ+ business community. So this interview may surprise you. Howard is the founder and owner of a popular gay adult entertainment company, FabScout Entertainment. He represents some of the world's most famous gay adult entertainers, products, and operates a film studio. He is here to share his entrepreneurial journey and his love for the community, and we're probably going to talk a little bit about porn also. He is one of the favorite and most loved gay entrepreneurs of Fort Lauderdale's LGBTQ+ community. FabScout initially started out in a guest room in Andrew's house and acquired its first office space around 2008, settling into its current Fort Lauderdale space a year later, and I'm going to tell you all about that in the studio he operates. The recent GayVN Awards, you know, the offshoot for LGBT of the most popular in the world adult video news awards, recently took place in Las Vegas on January 1st. On January 5th. It's a great kickoff to the year, and it focuses on LGBT adult entertainment. And they continued to celebrate Howard Andrew and FabScout by rewarding him with the Lifetime Achievement Award. The GayVN Awards are film awards presented annually to honor work done in the gay, and we're just going to call it for this moment, a pornographic industry. He is also a Grabby Wall of Fame winner, another important award done in May. Welcome, Howard, to Queer News Tonight.
Thank you, Al.
We are excited to have you here. In full disclosure to viewers, we've known each other for a long, long time. The dinosaurs were walking on the earth here in South Florida as the crust was cooling. You're a fun opportunity for me in our segment of the big interview on business because you're a really important segment in LGBTQ community for business. To get that started, I want to talk about queer. Queer debate is raging all over the country. It's an inappropriate word at a time, you know, when you and I were younger, queer would have been a really offensive word in community. And now LGBT is taking the word back and saying queer is an embracing word. When we started this show, we launched as Q News Tonight because we thought queer would be offensive. And now we're Queer News Tonight. The exact same thing about porn. We say gay adult entertainment. The word porn, let's get it right out there. What do you think about the use of porn and pornographic in relation to your business industry you work in?
I'm fine with the word porn. It's been around forever, and it kind of describes everything: gay, straight, trans, bi, whatever it may be. I'm still personally not okay with the word queer because I still always, you know, turn around and look behind me like there's a car full of guys coming up behind me, because that's happened.
Right.
Sometimes for good. No. It's the values change, and the words that we use change, and the way that we accept things change. So we are being forced to accept the word queer. That's fine. But people in our age group, some of us have issues and troubles with some of the pronouns and some of the acceptable versus non-acceptable words. I know there was a trans person that posted on Facebook the other day that she was upset that somebody used the word tranny and said, that's okay. In my age group, I'm allowed to use the word tranny because sometimes we forget. Well, I kind of agree with this gentleman, and I kind of disagree with the trans person, But if it's not okay for all, it shouldn't be okay for some. I am just as guilty. I use the word trans.
I'm curious. I'm going to talk about your models and the work that FabScout does, or one of the lines of work that FabScout does. Would your models agree with that? Would they have any problem with the word queer?
No, most of them are okay with it.
Yeah. And I'm just curious, putting that mirror up right in front of you, because I completely understand what you just said. I'm in that ballpark too. But I'm getting used to it because all of my peers that would, work as models for you in your industry would go, I have no idea what you're talking about, and let's just put that in the past. What do you think about that?
I agree. It just, we've come to a point where we can use the word faggot to each other. We can say, hey, what's up, faggot? And some people might get upset and some might not get upset. But I know when we were in Vegas a couple weeks ago and somebody was in the casino and there's, I don't know, hundreds of gay people around, and somebody said the word faggot and we all kind of giggle and laugh, but it was actually somebody saying it in an insulting way. So at that point, we didn't know whether to militarize and go after this person or not. So I guess it's the same thing with a lot of other derogatory words in other cultures.
Yeah.
And things.
I mentioned your models. Let's jump right into that. Your platform site is FabScout.com. I'm probably going to say that 56 times.
Trivia.
Right.
Trivia. FabScout started out as Florida Adult Booking and Scouting. That's where the name is, the name is.
It was a secret code?
Florida Adult Booking and Scouting, and then we just kind of
Did you do that because you didn't want anyone to know it was adult booking?
No, it wasn't even the shortcut. It was, I designed the logo. It was a gigantic F, and it said Florida, and
we all like a gigantic F.
So that logo, of course, didn't work out, and then the name didn't work out. But I liked the name, so we just kept FabScout.
Oh, okay.
And then, of course, the joke went into FagScout and everything like that. So
right. Okay, all right. So on FabScout.com, one of the first things you see is about a model call, and I know what that means at Ender Christian. I know what that means at Gucci. But at FabScout, your message is, do you have what it takes? Mm-hmm. So tell us what that means. What does it take to be a model?
It's not up to me to make a decision at first. It's up to a model. If I approach a model, that means I think that model has something, and I would give them my card or ask them to apply. But for a model to apply, they have to look at themselves. They have to make a decision. Do they think they have what it takes? And then, of course, the application comes in, and I sit there and I go, ooh, what would make you think that?
Do you get a lot of that? Do you get a lot of people going, really, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Quantify that for me. How many in a year do you get where you go, honey, I love you, but no, this is not the work for you?
I have a certain Facebook fan group that gets upset when I don't post certain things. And for a long time, I would post the application of the day. And I would take an application, some of the comments, and put it into a Facebook post, change a little bit, but leave most of it there. And it would get hundreds of comments from people. Like, I don't understand. I filmed a scene in Texas, in Florida, and I live in Texas. Why would people in Texas get to see it on the internet?
Oh, okay.
Well, let's see. There's comments, but the photos that I get, everything from people's backgrounds where you can see what their houses look like and the dirty mirrors and stuff that we all laugh and joke about, to people that have no sense of ability to take a picture from any sort of an angle, and everything is blurry, to people that are just
so even
not
in gay adult entertainment, it can be unprofessional, is what you're saying. This is a business.
I'm trying.
And at the end of the day, it's a business. Now, I'm curious. There are a number of directors and studio heads in the United States that I quite favor. And then there's some, especially the Russian one in New York, that I'm not so I'm not so favor on. But I've got to ask you the question: have you ever? Is it is it ever the casting couch in Hollywood? Does that go on in gay adult entertainment? I'm not saying at FabScout, but just generally. Do you think that the casting couch kind of thing that we've heard so many stories about in Hollywood goes on in gay adult entertainment?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? No, I'm kidding. It definitely does happen. There are some producers, possibly a Russian one that,
He shall not be named.
That they have Voldemort. They do an online one where they have a model on a camera, and the model has to strip, and the model has to get himself aroused, and then the model has to turn around and show his butt, and then there's a script that goes on with that, and we all know what the script is, what the director sounds like, and the running gag is that it's not fair that the models have to do all of this. They come into my office. I had a brand new model come in this morning, sat in front of my desk, and my desk is in a very large U shape, and it's not that easy to get around my desk, and it's impossible to get under the desk. Anyway, and this model sat there, and he said, well, do you want me to take off my clothes? And I'm like, no, I've gotten your application. I know what you look like. I don't need you to take off your clothes.
Yeah.
And then I look at the pictures that he sent, and there was a scar in one of the pictures, and I said, can I see that scar? And it was on his leg, so he pulled his pants down a little bit, and I said, just please leave your underwear on. I don't want to see everything. And the scar was about halfway gone, and I felt comfortable with that. He goes, that's all you wanted? I said, yeah. And then we talked for about a half hour, and in fact, he's filming right now, so it's kind of funny.
So in case you're meeting Howard and you're learning about FabScout and you don't know this end of the LGBTQ business community in adult entertainment, Howard operates FabScout in Fort Lauderdale, and you have more than 100 models. And so basically you work like an agency and a casting agency, and Men.com or Falcon or various, there are many. They contact you and say, I need X, I need Y, and you help literally, I was going to say fill that hole, you literally provide the casting for that.
I use a description of, if you have a puzzle in front of you, I'm the guy with the puzzle pieces. The studio has the puzzle they're doing, and the model is the puzzle piece. So I'm handing the studios the puzzle piece.
Yeah.
So I send out model sheets. I either by email or by text to producers that may need something. I handle, like today, I just got a phone call for a model for tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, well, that model's already working tomorrow at another scene. And the producer's asking me to cancel that one scene so that he can use them in his production. Well, how about you move your production by 1 day, considering you're only giving me 1 day's notice?
And again, this is a professional industry, so you have to follow professional. Yeah, exactly. And at FabScout, FabScout represents more than 100 models that you can hire for production here and really all over the world. Another interesting thing about FabScout, we're here in Florida, and what does Florida mean? Outside of Los Angeles and Atlanta, lots and lots of films are done here. They're actually produced here in Florida. Of course, the two big ones that you've heard of are Disney and Universal Studios in Orlando. They make the film, studio lot, studio production. For this industry, gay adult entertainment industry, movie producers have another film studio here in Florida, and that's the FabScout Studios here in Fort Lauderdale, not very far, by the way, from our studios here at Happening Out and Cathedral, the largest queer church in the world. We're all one big happy family, and FabScout Studios is close to us, has a 4,000 square foot studio. Now, a lot of people don't know, Howard, that in this studio, it's like what we've seen in, I was at Universal in California over the holiday. You see studio production sets, and at FabScout, you have production sets all set for the production theme that the director or the film wants, and that includes a jail. We love jail scenes, business offices with a desk, and we're going to have a scene with the office, of course, a locker room, a doctor's office, makes perfect sense. You have showers. Now, I have been into FabScout a number of times. I don't think I ever asked, do the showers work? There's water, right? All right, so it's working showers, and you'll have to tell me this because I heard this got added. I know you had a classroom set at the studios. But is it true that you now call it the Governor Ron DeSantis classroom? Is there any truth to that rumor?
I gladly, yeah. This is our teacher, Rhonda Santos.
Rhonda, right.
Ron Death Sentence.
Right. Tell us about the recording studio. What goes on? How does it work?
The studio, I don't really have a lot to do with the studio because I don't really get involved in production. I have a production partner, Gio Caruso, who owns Media Geo. He is my former partner in life. We were together for 18 and a half years. He is my best friend. He is my right hand. I am his. We are joined at the hip for the rest of our lives. He handles everything.
By the way, that's not the best place to be joined, but
in our case, that was the best place.
Was it?
Trust.
Okay.
He takes care of all the production. I don't hold a camera. I don't own a camera. I don't want to be in there while they're filming. My office being right outside of the studio, I hear the noises. I hear the moans. I hear the whimpers. I hear when there's straight porn being filmed, I hear the girls acting like kittens, and I hear everything. And sometimes it gets old. So I go home. People tell me that I have the best job in the world because I get to be around it all day long. And I say, if you work in a movie theater, when you go home, do you eat popcorn? And they say, no. And I say, if you work at McDonald's, do you eat fries at home? They said, no. I said, it's the same in this business.
Oh, dear.
Sometimes it's too much in your face.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's super interesting. So we're going to have to make sure that we have, to hear all of these fascinating stories that I really want to hear, I'm going to have to ask Gio to come in.
Gio would be excellent to have here.
Yeah, exactly.
And something recently happened. Gio and I share an assistant now. Stephen Ponce, who most of the community knows, has been working for us for 18 years, for both of us. He is Gio's #1 production assistant. He is also my office assistant. Okay. So we're now sharing him. So he's got like 5 jobs and he's busting his little butt. So
okay. Shout out to Stephen Ponce. One of the things that really caught me by surprise, and I loved this, of course, we have our own. Ours is a television studio. It's different. Howard's sitting at a set right now.
Not much different. We could film here.
All right, and Howard's talking about the bed. We have a bed in the studio, and if you haven't watched the Fay What Show, make sure you do it Mondays at 9 a.m. and then on demand anytime you want at Roku and Apple Television. And recently, Fay came to the FabScout Studios, one of the leading lesbians in Florida. And what I thought was hilarious is she did not know that there was this performance studio in Fort Lauderdale. What was that? Now, I watched it. I watched the interview. It was great. I watched your interview, which was great. But what was the reaction of having Fay being there? Did she have Lysol and a rag with her?
When she walked in, I specifically remember, and I know I could be backed up by 2 people in the building, I specifically remember saying, don't touch anything. And if you do touch something and it's slippery, we have Purell. So that's one of the bad things, is that there's always lube, always. The other stuff gets cleaned up. Lube on door handles, or, there's always lube. But it's funny. And then, Fay took a shine to a piece of porn memorabilia that was on set, so she kept it by her side the day that we filmed. You have to watch. Go to Roku and Apple TV. You can watch that.
Go to Roku and Apple and watch the interview with Howard as she visited. Do you think she's going to come back? Did she have any interest in what was going on?
Oh, fascinated.
Yeah.
Totally fascinated. She wants to come back and watch a filming. She would be a production assistant. And I said that involves, if there's 2 models on a bed, you might have to grab a baby wipe and wipe their feet if their feet are dirty. And she goes, why? I said, you don't want to see dirty feet in a movie. She goes, that's fine. I could do that. And I'm like,
all right. Well, the studio, it's fascinating because, frankly, most people watching us do not realize that there's something like this and this size of event.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of straight porn, a lot of trans porn that's shot down here. A lot of other gay porn. There's a lot of studios that have spaces for rent that do things. There's many shoot houses that are specifically for adult films.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot going on down here.
And just out of curiosity, for LGBT that watch this interview, is it something about South Florida, or what is it? Why is there a gravitation of that here?
I think because of the weather, obviously, is a huge plus.
Always good.
The fact that South Florida has a large, airport and travel industry that people come here all the time anyway.
Easy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's always been Southern California and South Florida, and then it's Southern California, South Florida, Palm Springs, and Las Vegas right now, with a drop in New York.
Yeah, well, interesting in terms of FabScout, and if you want to learn more, you go to the site. I want to talk about pandemic for a moment. A lot of people don't realize we're on the verge of our 3rd anniversary since COVID-19 broke out. February, it really will have begun. March, we're in full-blown isolation. Your industry must have taken it right on the chin early on, literally. Tell us a little bit about that.
We sat down and had a few conversations about it, and I kind of disagreed with other people. We did have a shutdown, a mandatory shutdown, and then people were able to, the models were lucky because they have their OnlyFans and their Just for Fans accounts. And they were able to do their own content solo. And then the majority of them, there are several of them that didn't necessarily care, and they would still shoot scenes. And then as things started progressing and the tests were made readily available.
Worse?
As the tests were becoming easier to get, then models would test each other and do their scenes, in addition to using talent testing service. Talent testing service is the industry standard on testing, and that's a full panel STD test, including COVID, which now, oddly enough, they have dropped COVID. So nobody's testing for COVID anymore, which doesn't quite make a lot of sense.
Well, I don't know if you heard, our governor said COVID never existed and will never exist ever again. He waved a wand. So that's what happened to the COVID testing. What's fascinating to me is we came to this stop, and Howard Andrew and FabScout now becomes different in community. I started to read in social media that you began to feed people, and that you were helping weekly in terms of creating basically a food drive, but it would actually be prepared and cooked meals.
Dawn Cohen had a sub shop called Pink Sub, and obviously her business was suffering as well because people weren't going out to eat as much, and they would order in, but it wasn't to the extent that she needed it to survive. So her and I decided there were a lot of people in the service industry that needed food. So we agreed that we were going to do 50 meals a day, twice a week. And we started it with the assistance of Johnson's, and then moved over to Hunter's because of the way the parking lot is set up. It was easy for them to drive through, pick up what they need, and go. And we did that for about, I think, almost 6 months. And we had a team. There was about 6 or 7 that would be there consistently helping us. And we partnered with the Pet Project, and Sue and her team were there giving out dog food, helping, and people would drop off cases of toilet paper for us to give out. You guys came by with cookies to give out. Other people came by with donuts and things like that. And it was the Wilton Manors community that got together and did it.
I'm very curious from an industry. This would surprise people. I expressed this to you repeatedly. I came to one of the food preparation gatherings, helped with sandwiches and different kinds of things, and did one, and I helped at one of them at Hunter's in serving food, and watched the people come. I was surprised of the gay adult performers that came and got a meal. It surprised me that they needed a meal.
Well, you have to look at a lot of them are in the sex work industry, in the sex work business, and people tend to look down on sex workers and things, and sex workers are workers. It's work. It's not fun. It's not pleasure. And I know that's not what this is about, but they were suffering just as bad. So a lot of my guys would come down and help us cook or help us distribute food and take a meal. I have other people that were homebound or scared to leave their house, and I would throw a couple of meals in a car and say, okay, somebody bring this over to so-and-so's house. Or, or we'd get the ungrateful people that would come by, which I'm sure if you know Dawn and you know myself and you read our sarcasm, every single week we had people that would give us a hard time about what was served, and every single week we would say, okay, we're done because of these 1 or 2 people. But I also had to turn around and look at the 48 that we actually helped.
Yeah.
I remember we were giving out a very expensive meal one night, and 5 minutes after I put this meal in this man's hand, he posted, and I know the guy is, he posted online, God, I hate when there's meat on a bone. Why would anybody serve meat on a bone?
Wow.
I went absolutely ballistic. I admit I lost it. And I went after him on every bit of social media. I mean, I called bar owners and had him banned from bars. That's how pissed I was. And then I had to pull myself back and realize, you know, we're all going through a lot of stress. And that's his personal thing. And, you know, I sent him a nice apology and he apologized to me, and we're all good. But I look now, I go to restaurants and I see the way people treat servers and people in stores, and it's like, we need to go back to being nice to each other. I mean, it's just terrible the way people are treated right now. And it doesn't matter if you're a sex worker, a bartender, a cashier at Target, it doesn't really make a difference.
Yeah.
People have to go back to treating people right. I apologize for the tangent.
It was no, it was a really good moment, and it is one of the many highlight moments for me of pandemic, because when you were doing that, and there were people that were afraid to get out of their car, and so they would drive up and somebody would walk out as far as their arms could extend to give them the food.
Absolutely.
So they would not have to interact with people. And it was at a time, I just remind people that you're preparing these meals, these hot meals, at a time when there was virtually no traffic on Commercial Boulevard. I mean, we are at the height of pandemic.
And we had support from the television stations and everything. The problem we had, they would not come anywhere near us to film because of this.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, I'm not saying the channel, but
it returns us right to the point of it, of saying, what is that? And that's why I start with the porn reference at the beginning. Sex work, and it's a business, and this is the business. Why do you think, from your long experience with it, why do we have, just broadly in community, why, and maybe even in our own community, why do we have this contradiction? We love it, we consume it, we might do it privately or maybe not so privately, but we have this double standard but we also don't want to be associated with it. Why does that go on?
It's a good question. I don't honestly have an answer, but it's frustrating. Going back to the food drive, we had a school that wanted us to do lunches for the school one day. And they approached Dawn, and Dawn said, sure, Howard and I'll come do it. And the woman from the school said, Howard's the guy from the porn company, right? She goes, yeah. And the lady said, he can't come near the school. And Dawn said, then I'm not giving you the food. And the lady said, well, if he promises to wear a mask and gloves and not wear one of his work shirts.
Wow.
And I turned around to Dawn and I said, you know something? Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. I don't mind if I pay for it or whatever. Go ahead and do it. I get what the lady's point is. I'm involved in an organization now that has a charity event coming up at a school, and I already let them know that that's one event that I'm not going to be involved in, because I don't want somebody saying something that,
I want to talk about community in a different way. You personally seem to be, you're like a roach. You're everywhere. I see you everywhere. Every event I go to, you're a volunteer coordinator. You do so many things that are not the most glamorous or the most recognized things. I go to Miami Beach Pride, you're there. I go to, well, whatever the event is, you're there.
And didn't we have so much fun at Miami Beach Pride?
Yes, we had so much. Had so much. That'll be a whole nother special episode of the Howard and Al stories. But you volunteer at all of these events. Successful in what you do at FabScout, this kind of commitment in terms of this food program during pandemic. Why do you do that? Why are you involved in projects like that in our community?
Why not? Somebody has to be. All of these events that go on, Miss Noche Latina pageant is coming up, and Scott Holland being a very good friend of mine, every single year they do the pageant, I just get the phone call that says you're taking care of the door, because he needs somebody that he can trust with the counts and the money and tickets and making sure people are in the right seats. Miami Beach Pride, I'm in VIP because they know I can handle what goes on and I can handle getting yelled at by everybody. Fort Lauderdale Pride, 99% of the time I'm in VIP unless somebody. Anyway, yeah. Fort Lauderdale Pride is yeah. And then currently I'm involved with the Wilton Manors Business Association with WIMBA. I'm on their board. And I know we're going to talk about that.
Oh, well, let's talk about it right now. We're talking about community. Christine W. is coming in, and you're giving a leadership or in business embracement to Norm Kent on Thursday, January 26th at Hunters. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there, the Wilton Manors Business Association.
Once a year, WIMBA decides to give out 3 or something in that area of business leadership awards. Who are the key business people of the year? I'm not going to name any names yet. I can't. I'm sorry. But this year they decided that they wanted to post an extra one on somebody that's exemplary, that's above and beyond. And I think anybody that knows Norm knows that he's been incredibly sick, and he, thank God he's holding his own right now. But it's been a very tough year for him. And Norm has shown so much leadership and so much pride and so much success in the community that they are naming an award after him that will go on in perpetuity every year to somebody in the community, in the Wilton Manors community, that shows their leadership and their business acumen and their pride in the community. So it's going to go on in perpetuity, not necessarily annually, because next year there might not be anybody worthy of that award. The year after, there might be 2. We don't know.
Right, and I understand you're new on the board at Wilton Manors Business Association. Any eyebrows raised? FabScout, Gay Adult Entertainment Business Association. Any eyebrow raised?
Going on the board, that was my first conversation, and everybody on the board knows me and knows what I'm doing and what I do. But as long as they were fully aware in advance, none of them had a problem with it. And then they were all very pleased when I told them about the school event. It just, even though I'm allowed, I'm not on any lists or anything like that, I just don't want to put any sort of side-eye reference on any association that I work with.
Yeah, I understand. And admirable. We look forward to the day where we don't even have that conversation. I want to zero back in on people in the industry, the porn models, the GayVN Awards. I have been known to be a little fanatical and have quite a bit of fans. I'm quite a bit a fan of a number of gay porn stars. Hosted many in terms of events at Sawmill, for example, etc. Everyone in gay porn. You are kind of like in gay porn, like what I used to be at RuPaul's Drag Race. I knew every queen very, very intimately. Tell me your favorites. Who do you like? Who's at the top of your list? Not of your models. I'm not asking you to blur that line of your direct business, but in the industry, who are here's the guys, or might be girls or trans or whatever.
Well, there's a guy named Anthony Duran in California. He's a director. He's an absolute sweetheart. He's a wonderful director. I know that's not where you're going.
I'll patiently wait.
It's very, very difficult to say. I mean, I have my core group of guys, and that core group is fairly small. It's about 100. But I have guys that are my family.
There are people laughing all over the country right now. I have this tiny little small group of gays in adult entertainment, about 100. They're laughing.
There's people laughing because I get accused of showing favoritism, and I'm like, it's difficult to not show favoritism to the ones that don't give me any drama and don't give me any headaches and manage to get on their flight at the right time and not screw up gate 18 for gate 81. Not screw up February 23rd for February 32nd or whatever.
RuPaul stories to heaven's end.
Nonstop. Yeah. There are so many little tiny issues that come up on a daily basis, whether it's a testing program issue that might be a model's fault, might be a lab's fault, might be a doctor's fault, whether there's an STD issue that has to be discussed with somebody for the 3rd, 4th, or 5th time, whether it's having discussions with a model of follow-through stuff. You lost your ID 7 weeks ago. You still haven't gotten a new ID. This is not my fault anymore.
I'm going to go back in the transition or in the record and reread your statement, but I didn't hear a name.
Yeah.
The guy today is. I won't ask again. I'll let you off the hook if that's what you want me to do. But the guy is.
It's really, really difficult to say. I've got guys with me now that have been with me 10, 15 years.
Yeah, I'm not talking about
Cliff,
models.
Cliff Jensen, one of my models, has been with me 18 years, and I love that man with all my heart. Right. There's 10 others that have been with me over 10 years that I love as family. They know my mom, they know me, they have a key to my house.
Right.
Paul Cannon, one of the best guys in the world. Paul Cannon will show up at the house. I'll get home from work and dinner is made. Cade Maddox, major performer, gets awards all the time. He is one of the sweetest human beings.
Yeah. We showed his acceptance in Guardians tonight at the GayVN.
He's just
amazing.
It's disgusting because he's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's got that little Louisiana accent that just makes it worse.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of others that.
Let me refocus the question in terms of something that's very important here in South Florida. We have an older LGBT population generally that are in charge, in control, blah, 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 blah. What do you think about this trend of older, more mature men having longer stays in gay adult entertainment? People like Rocco Steele and others that are moving into their even late 50s, and maybe some that I'm not aware of, even older, that are really still having great success.
There are a lot of websites, like menover30.com is down here in South Florida. Hot Older Male is down here in South Florida. Older for Me films part of it down here in South Florida. The big fetish right now is incest-based porn. Not real incest, but incest-based porn.
Talks about it.
Like this is my grandfather's brother, or things like that. It's my mother's sister's best friend's neighbor, once removed by divorce. Anyway, it's all of this silly stuff, and I laugh at it because I sit and I read the scripts, and I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. Where does it stop?
Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah. I feel obliged to say, while we're not getting into, Pornhub, everyone in LGBT thinks about Pornhub.
What's Pornhub?
But Pornhub in straight is 100 times what the LGBT platform is.
Right, but what you don't realize is when you see my stepmom's kitchen, and then you turn around and you see my stepdad's kitchen. It's the same company that's producing both of those.
Yeah.
When you see Bait Bus, you also see Bang Bus.
Yeah.
When you see, I mean,
You're crushing the dream of the ingenuity of.
I mean, there's like 3 or 4 studios right now that own everything.
Right.
And today I got a phone call that says, we need regular guys. I'm like, what do you mean regular guys? Well, kind of like a bear, but not a bear. And I'm like, okay, a bear is a bear. A regular guy is a regular. So do you want dad bods? Yeah, we need dad bods. That's all you had to say was dad bods.
Wait, do I have a chance, you think? Yeah.
I am a great grandfather. Did you know that? I'm a great grandfather.
Oh, yes, I did.
So I have a great granddad bod. So if you think you have a dad bod, sign up, Al. Sign up.
That was a read. That's a RuPaul. Did to me. All right. I'm curious about the future of gay adult entertainment. Your crystal ball, where's it going to go? Next 5 years? Next 10 years? Where are we going to be?
I think studio porn will still be there. I think DVDs will still be for sale. The social media platforms like OnlyFans, Just for Fans, things like that are still going to be there. I see the studio porns going down a little by little. 5 years from now, I think they'll still be there.
Or quality?
Both. Because you can't pay, they don't want to pay what they used to pay. They can't afford to pay what they used to pay. And the models think they deserve what they deserve. And I have issues with that because as an agent, if a studio offers a model X amount of money, I can only argue so much.
Right.
Excuse me. And the studio turns around and says, we also have to pay for travel. and then we also have to pay for testing, and we also pay for lodging. Well, they don't want to pay for that. Right. So now the comment comes up is, let the models pay for their own travel and lodging, and we'll pay for the testing. Well, that's fine, because then the models get to shoot their own content as well.
Yeah.
But if Model A and Model B are shooting for Falcon, and they're sharing a hotel room the night before, so they shoot for their OnlyFans account, then why is somebody going to want to watch them shoot here and then watch them shoot for Falcon at the same time?
It's interesting to me because that model, the difficulty of the model that you see going in the future, next 5 years, next 10 years, is exactly what bars and other venues face also. Can we make this platform work in its cost compared to what people will pay for it? So gay adult entertainment is just like any other business, is what we've just found. I want to seed a quick question about health. The 70s, 80s, into the 90s, it was bareback, and probably there was virtually nothing. And AIDS started to make the change of having condom in gay adult entertainment filming. And that went for quite a long time. We watched many studios and many directors say, I won't do anything but condom film. We see some pretty significant change on that in terms of abandoning the condom idea, PrEP exists, etc. Where are we going in terms of health for the models, participants in gay adult entertainment?
First answer to that is the first 15 years, FabScout celebrated 20 years last year. For the first 15 years, we were 100% condom only. If a model did a bareback or non-condom shoot, we would dump them. No questions asked. It was in their contracts and everything. And then about almost 6 years ago now, I couldn't stop it anymore. There's nothing I could do. So we had to accept a policy that the model had to be either on PrEP or be fully aware that there was going to be communication of your model is or isn't positive or negative. And it became a lot of arguments and discussions with the talent testing service and the directors and the powers that be at the Free Speech Coalition, which I'm a member of, and how are we going to make all this work? So we now have lists of models. These are the gay for pay models that are on PrEP, but don't want to work bareback with HIV positive models, only negative, which kind of is counter to what the CDC says, U equals U. I agree with U equals U, but I also agree with the model's personal preference. So we have the models that will not work with positive models, the models that are negative, the models that are negative that will work with positive models, the positive models that would only work with other positive models, the positive models that will only work with models on PrEP. So, we're at like 5 separate points that we have to keep tally of that legally I can't write this down because of HIPAA.
HIPAA prevents that. I hadn't thought about that. These complications that you just outlined, does it make you want to pull your hair out? Oh, wait.
That's what happened. But I will say, about 4 years ago, we championed a program with Midland Cares, and we were the first adult company, the first management company to offer health care to sex workers. I don't care if they were gay, I don't care if they were straight, I don't care if they were black, white, rich, poor, it didn't matter. All sex workers were getting mostly free health care, providing they went on PrEP. If they did not want to go on PrEP, or if they were already HIV positive, there was another program available. And if anybody wants to ask me, shoot me an email, howard@fabscout.com, and I'll get you the info.
And say it again slower.
howard@fabscout.com, and talk to me about Midland Cares.
All right, excellent.
In addition to that, when COVID first came out and nobody could get their COVID shots, we were doing the COVID shots in the studio. When monkeypox came out, we were the first people in town to have COVID shots in our studio, and we were taking, I think it was like 40 people a day, 3 days, and it was pretty amazing turnout. Absolutely amazing.
Again, the points that you make here in terms of the embracement of healthcare is why this is a segment about LGBTQ business. It's a business, and you're embracing your business. That's what you're saying.
My business, but my business is caring about people.
Yeah.
Whether it's my people or not, at the end of the day, you're not one of my people as far as my workers, but you're one of the people that enjoys the work that my people do. So technically, you're a part of my business.
Right, absolutely.
And
I'm the consumer of your business.
And I think a lot of people don't see that. You know, they see me as this, you know, this dirty old man that goes around to bars handing out business cards trying to recruit people to do porn, but they don't see me as the guy that's also sitting there wiping up a bloody nose or bringing Robitussin to somebody's house or driving them to get tested or making sure they have health care or PrEP.
Yeah.
Taking care of my life, taking care of my mother's life, and taking care of my business. So there's a lot of tentacles going out there that make it work.
I want to end our interview by it gives us an opportunity to talk to you of everything that you've seen over the last 20 years of FabScout. What is it would surprise us the most about the gay adult entertainment industry? What don't we know that would surprise us?
How little some people care about who they are and what they do. How little respect they have for themselves and their coworkers. And I'm sorry to say that because they're my kids, but
is it a personality trait that is attracted to this business? Is that what you're saying? Or can be attracted?
I think once somebody gets into the business, then I still have to try as much as possible to call them by their real name rather than their stage name, because I don't want them to turn into that persona. Half the time they turn into that persona and get mad at me if I call them by their real name. But then they start to get an attitude and hate their customers. So whether it's on a movie scene and they cop an attitude with a director or a co-star, or if they catch an STD, and even though they're getting treated for it, but they still go out and do escort calls, or they still go out and do OnlyFans and Just for Fans, they're spreading that STD and making my job harder. Last night, a model tested positive for something, and when I called him, he goes, I gotta call you back in a few minutes, I'm on an escort call. You have whatever, and he says, yeah, I know, but the guy called me and it's good money. Well, how am I supposed to counter that? I do the best I can, but the spread is there, and the personality isn't going to stop. And it's not one model, it's a lot. It happens consistently. So I think if I was an escort client, I would insist on a test or a condom or whatever. And I don't think a lot of these clients do. And I feel bad for the man that has a wife and 2 kids and he's in a business trip, screws around, catches whatever, and he brings it home to his whole family.
Yeah. Which was a big predominant issue of the AIDS spread in the 80s and 90s, of course. There's good and bad in every industry, which is the little glimpse that you just gave us is a reflection of that. My last question for you, what's next for you? You've done this, you're an institutional name in this business, you're the Hall of Famer at GayVN, you can't get there's nothing more than that. That's the pinnacle.
I think if you're in it just for the awards and the accolades,
no, and I don't mean that. But I agree. Specifically, what's next for you? You've done it from a business standpoint, from a compassion and community standpoint, the illustration of what happened in pandemic, in food, what you do in community, how you volunteer and help, how you support these performers that model. What's next for you personally?
You just keep going on. I enjoy doing my volunteer work. I really do. I wish that I could get involved with a community service organization and have something every day to do volunteer work in, but I don't have that kind of time. The pet project, that's my personal charity. So whatever I do, wherever I go, it's Sue and her people at the pet project. But other things, if somebody's got a charity, they have an event, they need help at the door, they need help wherever, I get those phone calls and I go. If the girls need a gift basket for their fundraiser, they all know. They come by, they let me know, we get it taken care of. I enjoy that. That's my mental release, I guess would be the word. Mm-hmm. No plans on retiring. You got to have money in the bank to retire, and that's not happening. I don't know, just keep going until one day they find my body stuck behind my desk.
I hear this little rumor. Perhaps you'd like to announce
Rumor
it
in
here
Fort
on the
Lauderdale?
show. On the show, that you're going to run for governor of Florida. Is
I
there
am.
any truth to this rumor?
Totally sure. I mean, if what's his name could.
If he could be governor and win by 1.9 million, anyone can.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that hard going against who he was going against.
Yeah, right.
I'm definitely not going to run for office. I'm definitely not going to run for president of any of the boards in town. I'm definitely not going to go for boards of prides. I'll volunteer for prides, but I never want to be on a board.
But at the end of the day, I think what we've explored here, you have a fun job and you have a fun life. And I just remind you, this is a fun and entertaining thing. And most of all, our community appreciates it because you step up in many, many ways to help our community. An interesting, as I told you right at the top, this was going to be an interesting segment about LGBTQ plus business, and that is FabScout. Howard, Andrew?
I will say that we did leave off. FabScout in June of this year also did a little offshoot. It's FabScout TS. And we have brought on TS girls into our stable. And TS, interesting enough, TS is not considered gay porn. TS is part of the straight porn world. Bisexual is not considered gay porn. It's considered part of the straight world.
Yeah.
So we have added on the trans girls and very happy about that, actually.
Yeah, excellent. More for us to explore. Trans is a big issue, one of our 10 pillars in the LGBTQ community. Check out FabScout, FabScout.com. A lot of interesting things going on there. And the next event you're at in your check-in or VIP, you're going to meet this guy.
We also have the store, FabScout.com/shop. And if they use the code Fay What, they can get 20% off everything in the shop. I still have that code in there.
That is so great.
They get 20% off everything in the shop.
Please, I encourage everyone to do that because Fay What should be forever associated with lube. Forever. FabScout.com. Make sure you check it out. Howard, Andrew, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Exclusively at Queer News Tonight. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.